Let me ask you to please stand for the reading of the Gospel today from Mark's 8th chapter.
Glory be to God.
Beginning with verse 27. Jesus went on with his disciples to the villages of Caesarea Philippi, and on the way he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am?" And they answered him, "John the Baptist, and others Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets." He asked them, "But who do you say that I am?" Peter answered him, "You are the Messiah." He sternly ordered them not to tell anyone about him. Then he began to teach them that the Son of Man must undergo great suffering and be rejected by the elders, the chief priests, and the scribes, and be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He said all this quite openly. But Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But turning and looking at his disciples, Jesus rebuked Peter and said, "Get behind me, Satan, for you are setting your mind not on divine things, but on human things." Called the crowd with his disciples and said to them, "If any want to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it. And those who lose their life for my sake and for the sake of the gospel will save it. For what will it profit them to gain the whole world and forfeit their life? Indeed, what can they give in return for their life? Those who are ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of them the Son of Man will also be ashamed when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Please be seated. Again, good morning and welcome to you all. And I appreciate your welcome to me. Again, I'm Tim Anderson, pastor here on the ELCA clergy roster in Austin. I appreciate the invitation of Pastor Gary for me to come here as he is down in the valley preaching as well. So a little exchange. Some of us know each other. I've been in Austin for over 20 years. Pastored St. John's, San Juan, on Ben White, between South First and South Congress, for close to 20 years, a dual language congregation. And my wife and I got 3 kiddos who all went to Bowie High School. They graduated, blah, blah, blah. And I have a new calling with Austin City Lutherans, and that's my purpose today, to fill you in on that. So it's great to be here with you today. And like Michael said, thanks be to God for great weather. Because I don't know about you, but I was getting a little bit worn down this summer, 2018, as you know, I checked the statistics this morning. I think we had 52 days of 100, or say it with me, or worse. Now, my wife gives thanks for the sun, and she can appreciate it. She works as a paralegal. She's inside an office for 9 hours, Monday through Friday, so she appreciates sun. Okay, all good. But I got a little bit tired of the sun this summer. I started complaining about summer back in May. So I had a plan. Now, Michael already knows. Oh, Karen, if you'd be so kind. Yes, give me that first. Yes, thank you. So Michael knows this one. But I had a plan this summer. So, and if someone can turn down my mic, thank you, just a touch, you know, because I will get worked up. I guarantee you I'll get worked up and we'll have more feedback. But my plan was to go to the Boundary Waters in northern Minnesota. Raise your hand if you've ever been to the Boundary Waters. Are Michael and I the only ones? Raise your hand if you've heard of the Boundary Waters before today. Yes. And so Lake Superior is up there. And then there's Duluth, the large port on the western tip of Lake Superior. And then north of Duluth There's this pristine place called the Boundary Waters. It's a national forest. It's not a national park. It might be someday, but it's a national forest. And the only way to get around, if you're not a loon or an eagle or a duck, whatever the case might be, is the canoe and the carrier canoe. And I'd been up there before, thank you. I had been up there before in the middle of the summer with, there I go, getting worked up again, I told you, with high school kids from Houston, where I used to pastor, and also Austin. And the Boundary Waters is wonderful in the middle of the summer. But you might know that there's a lot of mosquitoes and what they call deer flies or horse flies, the ones that you go like this when they're on your arm, and then they fly away. Can you back me up on that, Michael? Yes. And I heard the rumor from two of my brothers that if you go after Labor Day, there's no bugs. And of course the temp's going to be like 50 degrees, 80 degrees, and the water's like 70. So there you go. That was my plan. I knew I had a bad attitude going into the summer. I just knew it. And I'm thankful that I had the ability to take some time off at the end of the summer and have my attitude adjusted. And as you can tell by the image, this was the perfect remedy for hot summer in Austin 2018. Now, Peter, in today's gospel that I read, Mark 8, also had an attitude adjustment. Now you got to understand, in Mark's gospel, this is the shortest gospel of the four. Jesus is a rock star already by the end of chapter 1. And what I mean by that is that people are following him wherever he goes. They hear about him, and they're just crowding around him all the time. And it starts to go to the disciples' heads a little bit. Did you hear the gospel? Jesus says, the Son of Man must suffer. He'll be rejected. And he'll even be killed. And Peter, you know, the lead guy, dude, Jesus, you know, come here. It's not going to be like that for us. You see all the people following you? Thumbs up. Wait until we Twitterize this thing. We're going to be rocking and rolling, right? And Jesus says to Peter, I got something to tell you. Get behind me, Satan. And Peter's attitude, his viewpoint, is adjusted. Don't let this stuff go to your head, Peter. This is not what we're about. We are not about trying to gain the whole world. All right? We're not about that. But we're about giving to the world all that we got. All of our love, all of our mercy, all of our compassion. This is what God has called us to do. Not this other thing that you think we're called to do. So attitude adjustments. Sometimes we need to go take a little vacation when it gets a little too hot. That was a planned attitude adjustment. It worked just fine, I can promise you. But then other times, like Peter in Mark 8, it's an unplanned attitude adjustment. But we know from the gospel record that Peter did listen to what Jesus had to say. And it worked out good for him down the road. So Austin City Lutherans. Do you see us there on the Austin map? Do you see us there? You see that? Isn't that a cute ACL? Yeah. Was in a city council Austin Interfaith clergy meeting with Mayor Adler a couple of months ago, wearing this hat with Austin City Lutherans. So I said, Tim Anderson, Lutheran clergy. I'm with Austin City Lutherans. We call ourselves the other ACL. He laughed. All right? He laughed, so I thought that was a good thing. It's kind of catchy. You know this ACL. It'll be cranking up, I think, next month. And if you live by Zilker Park, like some of my former congregants did when I was at St. John San Juan, you will hear what's going on. But we are the other ACL. We are Austin City Lutherans. We are 14 congregations, including my former one, St. John San Juan, and this one, Faith Lutheran. And we join with those other 12 or so congregations in the Austin City limits, ELCA congregations, and we do ministry together. We've been together since 2011. And it was in 2013 that we formed the Bread for All food pantry. And I know some of you have helped out. Raise your hand if you've helped out, either given a donation or helping with distribution or helping with moving our spot. We were formerly at Prince of Peace, and now we're at Faith Presbyterian, just right across that highway called I-35. And we serve southeast Austin. Anyone is welcome to come, but most of our neighbors are right there in southeast Austin. We're on Old Torf by I-35. We're one of 2 food pantries that serves neighbors in the evening every week. And so our purpose is to serve those who are working and poor. And even though the economy, as we know, is doing better than it has for a long time, and we're thankful for that, we still have people coming to our food pantry who need assistance. Maybe they're not starving, but maybe they got an electric bill, maybe they got a rent bill that they're not sure they can pay, maybe they got medications, and to get some food so they don't have to spend 50 bucks on groceries certainly helps the cause, and a number of these have kids, as we know as well. So we're grateful to be able to do Bread for All Food Pantry, which is one of 2 things that Austin City Lutherans does. And the food pantry is a great ministry, but I will tell you that it's a charity ministry. Does Jesus call us to do charity ministry? Yes or no? Of course! But there's a problem with charity ministry. Do you know what it is? It's not necessarily transformational. And that's not a critique per se. I'm not saying we shouldn't do charity ministry. We absolutely should. But we do tend to see some of the same folks that come to the pantry month after month. Sometimes, on a rare occasion, we have a person who has a traumatic experience going on, that they need a food pantry for one time, and we don't see them again. But a lot of the folks we do see again and again, they're chronically poor, and this is a charity ministry. But charity ministries don't necessarily transform people's lives. You might know that Austin is number 1 in the cool vibe, right? You know, I'm the oldest of 6 siblings, and I'm the only one that lives in Austin. We all grew up in the Chicago area. And so, you know, one of my brothers who lives in Chicago, when he comes down, he always says, "Hey, when are we going to Franklin Barbecue?" And you know what I tell him, just like you tell your visitors. It's good stuff, certainly. I've not had it, but there's plenty of other good barbecue places, and we don't have to wait in line 2 hours. Right? Austin is good with music. Austin is good with so many things, and the football team even won last night, right? Yes, okay. All right, get the horns up. But we're also number 1, according to a study that came out 2 years ago from a group affiliated with McGill University in Toronto. We're number 1 in economic segregation. And probably the easiest way to understand that is when you drive by downtown, you see those cranes downtown, you know? There's like 10 or 12 or 15, and it's all good. It's construction, our city's growing, etc. Don't get me wrong. But those high-rises that are going up, like has happened in other large cities, you name them, New York, San Francisco, Chicago, those things create what's called economic segregation. And this one study said that Austin is one of the worst cities in the country, where if you're well-to-do, and generally speaking, I include myself in that group, Almost all of your neighbors are well-to-do. And if you're poor, same thing. Almost all of your neighbors are poor. And this is something that's happened in our society in the last 30 years or so, that we've kind of grouped together economically more so than used to be the case. You know, I've studied inequality for a number of years now, and I remember reading this line that said, back in the day, in the 50s and 60s, we had other problems then, but a mechanic and a medical doctor could be neighbors. Right? In today's 21st century America, that's not so much the case. Economic segregation. And so Austin, as we know, also has this 100-foot concrete, asphalt, steel canyon, 100-foot wide canyon that separates west from east. That's I-35, of course, and some of us know the history of I-35. I won't go into that now, but I'll cover some of those details later in the adult forum. Please come and join us if you'd like to for that. But as we know, Austin is segregated also east and west. Austin City Lutherans' second motivation, besides doing the food pantry, is to do early childhood development. Now, Pastor Tim, okay, good, you know, Austin City Lutheran's going to do a child care. Well, we got one here at Faith, and a lot of other churches do that. You know, you don't need to have a conglomeration of 12 or 14 churches to do child care. But we want to do the child care in southeast Austin, south of the river, and east of I-35, and we've done the legwork. There's a dearth of good child cares in that part of town, and some of us know about the readiness gap. If you're an educator, you know that by the time kiddos get to be 5 years old, they join kindergarten. Some of them are ready to rock and roll, and others of them are already behind. And we want to be one of the institutions, there's a few in Austin, that address this readiness gap with a two-generation approach in child care that takes care of the kiddos and offers support and education to the parents. Two-generation, I'll say more about that in just a moment. So there's our website, AustinCityLutherans.org. You know, it would have been really cute if we would have went with the other ACL, but we, went with AustinCityLutherans.org. Please go check it out. There's stories about what we're doing. There's stories about our neighbors who come to receive food at the food pantry. There's also information about the initiative about early childhood development. And what I'd like to do now is switch gears just a little bit. And I've given you a lot of information to digest. But I'd like to make the message now a little bit more personal. And that picture you see up there is me with my mom and with my dad. And that was on September 11th, 2015. And it's a very special picture, not only for me, but for the rest of our family. See, my mom's birthday is on September 11th. We say that she had 9/11 before the terrorists did. September 11th just passed, as we all know. My mom would have been 77 this past September 11th, but this was actually the last birthday that she shared with us, and we were unaware that 6 months later she would pass away with a 2-week notice, 2 weeks, with stage 4 liver cancer. So that was rough. And this picture is also kind of nice because, as I said, I'm the oldest of 6. My next sibling, my brother Mark, who lives in Chicago, he's all of 13 months younger than me. So I don't really ever remember a time when it was just me and mom and dad. And I'm not saying, I don't like my siblings, love my siblings, but we're always like this, growing up, all all of us together. And this is really the only time that I spent with my mom and dad. I was up there 3 years ago in the fall, kind of like I like to do, as I mentioned before. And my wife and I have been traveling in Michigan. She's also from Illinois. She came home to Texas. I stayed. We got some golf clubs from my mom for her birthday, and me, mom, and dad played golf that day. And I played high school and college golf, so, you know, it was all fun. And we went out to dinner. And as I said, we didn't know at the time, but this would be my mom's last birthday when she turned 74. This picture is also really important to me as I talk to you about Austin City Lutheran, because I give God thanks that I can raise my hand in answer to the question, echoing Proverbs 22:6, which says, "Show a child the way in which he or she should go, and when they get older, they will not lose the way." Amen? Show a child. And so I could answer the question, raise your hand if you had at least one great parent in the spirit of Proverbs 22:6 to show you the way. Go ahead, raise your hand with me. And then if you're like me, you're really blessed, raise your hand, raise both hands if you can say that for mom and dad. And I can do that as well. I realize that all of us are not able to do that. Family circumstances are different for each one, but as we know, this really is kind of God's intention. That, you know, us human mammals who need a lot of care and concern when we're grown up, at least 16 years, some 18, maybe 25 and beyond, that we have a good family system, starting with mom and dad, to show us the way. And I'm so thankful as I look at this picture that I can say that. And friends, I'm here to tell you this morning, and this makes logical sense, we got a bunch of kids in southeast Austin, south of the river, east of I-35, that aren't able to raise both hands. Maybe they're not even able to raise one, maybe one hand halfway. A lot of these kiddos are the kiddos of single moms. And the deal about Austin City Lutherans, I said we're 14 congregations. Do you know how many of our congregations are east of I-35? Some of you get points. So we have Messiah, which is on Cameron Road, northeast Austin, east of I-35, and there's a for sale sign in the front. All right? We also have Prince of Peace, where we had Bread for All food pantry for 4.5 years. No longer, because there's a for sale sign right in front. And then Salem Lutheran, south of the airport, is technically east of I-35, but the folks of Salem, and I know a number of them, would say, sorry, Pastor, we're a rural congregation and always have been. So we're getting to the point, and I give points here for those who said one, but we're getting to the point where we have almost, in terms of our formal ELCA presence, we have almost abandoned the east side of Austin, Texas. And so I'm here to tell you this morning that Bread for All, these two initiatives of Austin City Lutherans, Bread for All the Food Pantry, and the Early Childhood Development, give us the opportunity to follow Christ's mission, to share the love, share the compassion, share the service on that side of town. Last slide. Jesus, as we remember, continued to teach Peter and the other disciples. We famously remember another situation when Jesus had to readjust the viewpoint or the attitude of his disciples because the parents were bringing their kids to Jesus so that he might bless them. And of course, the disciples were like, our master is way too busy with more important things than to spend time with your little urchins. Will you please take them away? And Jesus, as we remember, said, no, disciples, let the little children come unto me. So friends, I want to leave you with this today. Jesus took the initiative to bless the children. And so should we as Austin City Lutherans. Amen.
Amen.